Today, I'm going to talk to you about stakeholder maps and the wonderful world of getting to understand which stakeholders really count for your next promotion. There's a lot to think about when you're thinking about who can actually influence your career. And before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click that little bell so that every time we drop another video about career progression, you get a direct link to that new video. So in order to help progress your career, you're going to need to identify the best people to impress and for whom you have to build better relationships with. And a stakeholder map can help you do exactly that. Now, if you follow these key techniques, then I guarantee your career will flourish. I'm Dr. Suzanne Doyle-Morris, the founder of Inclusic, and I have used these techniques with literally hundreds of clients over many years, and they always get results. For those who hire me to work with their middle to senior management women, 9 out of 10 of those ladies have got promotion within a year or less, often from keeping referring to this stakeholder map because we use it in one of our first sessions. And if you're with me by the end of the video, you're going to get a super low effort way to impress even the biggest office stinkers that we all have to work with, but who might happen to be on this year's map. Okay, so here is the hard truth time. Every single one of us gets hired, fired, or promoted, not on what we think of ourselves, but what on other people think of us. So you may think you're awesome, but if you're the only one in the room who does, well, that's a far bigger problem than not believing in yourself or not having enough confidence, as we've all been told we need to do. The truth is, we all have, and we actually all need stakeholders if we're going to get to the next level. And more importantly, you're going to need to manage those relationships. Now, this applies to everyone in an organization, from the most junior all the way to the top of the tree. And that's where a very good old-fashioned stakeholder map becomes so useful. As I said, it's an exercise I do with all my clients in our first few sessions, and we go back and refer to it frequently. So grab a piece of paper and 2 different colored pens. I'm going to use a whiteboard so that you can see far easier. Because what I'm going to do is, just like all good TV chefs say, here's one I prepared earlier, and that's what I'm going to use to illustrate my points. Okay, so the clear thing you see is you put yourself in the middle and then start to fill out with other people's names using their initials, the people who work most closely with you. So that could be peers, that may be senior people who report or who are peers to your boss. It may be the big boss. Use all of the initials simply because if you're like many of my clients, it becomes tricky eventually to determine which Mike or John we're talking about, which often happens when you work in male-dominated fields, so that it's easier for you to remember who KS is versus SJ. Just simple that way. Okay, so what you're going to start wanting to do is drawing some solid lines between the people that you report directly to and the people who report directly to you. You may have dotted lines, that is people for whom you work with on projects, but technically they don't report to you, nor do you report to anyone else. So I haven't got any other dotted lines for myself in this one. I just work with Karen. Mike is who I report to, and Toby, well, he's the office stinker we talked about earlier, and we're going to talk about him in a minute. So you're going to give them scores, and that's the next step. Okay, so the first step is to think about how good the relationship actually is, and give it a score. So the first score you're going to want to do, 2, 5, 7, for example, is about the quality of the relationship. A 1, for example, on a 1 to 10 scale might mean I pray that this person is found out for the twerp they completely are. A 10, on the other hand, means that I would leave this person with my small children or my lazy dog. No matter what you've got, you trust this person implicitly. So you can start to see how I've got scores around in black here. Those are the first scores. So for me, you will have seen that I put my boss, Mike, as a 5. We get on okay, but the relationship isn't amazing. I'm not bringing him home for dinner, but he seems to like my stuff, and that's important to me, which is great. It really makes the relationship that much better. Okay, so for the next stage, we're going to need that other colored pen. And whereas the first score was about how good the relationship is, this second color is about how important this person is to your particular career advancement. Again, number 1 is nice to see them in the hallways, but they have no influence. 10 would be, if this guy's not bought in to me moving ahead, then nobody's bought in. So for you, a 3 might be a person on whom you rely on for information. A 7 might be a colleague who actually you get on with and who you know has the potential, if they haven't already done so, to talk you up to others. And a 9 might be somebody who's on a team that you would love to join. And remember, a 10 isn't necessarily your current boss. It might be someone who is influential in the team that you'd like to go to, or maybe your boss's boss. Equally, a number 1 is not the most junior minion at the office. They may actually be a peer or someone you really like. A low score on this section simply means that you are not reliant on them on loving you for a promotion. Your priorities about who to target should actually be becoming clearer. So now's the time for us to look at how the first score relates to the second. I'm going to again use my own as illustration. So now's the time to look at your first score based on the importance of your second score. So as you'll see here, Sanjay reports directly to me. He's amazing. We have a great relationship, and actually I'm pretty reliant on him because I need him to do great work because that helps the whole team look better, which is really important because if my team can look good, then I have a better chance of getting a promotion. So you'll see I've got a dotted line to Kiara. Now Kiara really likes me and vice versa. We're good together, but actually she's not hugely influential on my career. But what's interesting is she is important because, here's the kicker, she works directly for Toby. So if she does good work and she talks about me positively, well, that is a great way for us to influence Toby. And we'll be talking about that in a future video going forward. But while she's a dotted line, she's not, I don't have direct control over her, but equally, she and I need each other. So here you're going to see Jason. Jason's just a peer. He is fantastic. I love having lunch with Jason. But actually, as you'll see, he's not hugely influential. So between my pocketbook and my waistcoat, I probably don't need to have as many lunches out with Jason. So you're going to see on my own chart, David's at the top. He's my boss's boss. Now, I don't do any work technically with David, but he knows I'm around. He more or less likes me, but he is super important because if I don't get approval from him, well, then nothing's going to be done. He has Mike as a direct report, but he also has Karen and Toby. Now, here's the interesting thing. Nobody rates Mike. Nobody rates Mike as well as Mike rates Mike. We all have one of those in the office. But he does rate Karen, and he does rate Toby, which is why they have higher scores than my own boss. Crazy, right? But it can happen that way. So if I can improve my relationships with them, then that is going to be a great news for getting David to notice me. As you look at your own map, you're going to see new priorities about your career and how your progression is reliant much, much more than you thought so on what other people think. Now, I know at this point you're probably thinking, this is a lot to take in, but please pause and rewind as many times as you need to get this right. Now, if you've managed now to complete your map, well, great going, but give me a mapped and ready in the comments below. Okay, so now you've continued, which is great, so you're going to get my top tip. While we'd like to think that everyone is a 10, the truth is we all have to work with some stinkers. So I'm an optimistic realist, and I'm going to tell you now that you're not going to be able to get everyone up to a 10. Doing so for many of my clients feels fake, particularly if they don't like that person or like that they would have their skin would crawl. I want you to keep your integrity at all costs. Instead, the right question to ask yourself is not how do I get this person to like me more? It's actually what could I do this week or this month that would move them even from a 1 to a 2? What one small thing could I do to improve that relationship, even just fractionally? And why does this work so well? Well, because if they truly are the office stinker, no one likes them very much otherwise. So if you could even fractionally turn up the volume and how that relationships work, you're going to be ahead of the game. Well, the good news is we've got another video on just that issue. So click the link to watch part 2, which is our stakeholder map analysis, how you can influence people to progress your career. That's a follow-on to this. So if you're now ready to map out your stakeholders, or maybe you've been doing it while I've been talking, give me a thumbs up below. And don't forget to subscribe to get more tips on how to advance your career. And if you've got any more questions on stakeholder mapping that I've just gone through, essentially just write them in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer you. Nothing else I could give you will take your career to the next level as quickly as getting analysis by looking at your stakeholder map and what it's telling you.